I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Jeffries, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your leadership, for convening us here today. Director Young, it's always wonderful to see you. Thank you for the extraordinary job that you and the Biden administration are doing relative to the economy. Look forward to discussing some of those more accurate numbers momentarily. I see my good friend Alveo Series. I want to just acknowledge his presence, congratulate him on the great run that the St. Peter's Peacocks had. Of course, Alveo is a former varsity basketball player for St. Peter's. He set this all in motion. Alveo, it's good to see you, and what a great run. I know you are proud as a Peacock. Shalanda, Director Young, there were several numbers that were thrown out, but I want to talk about just a few more accurate ones. 3.8%, that's the unemployment rate. But when President Biden first took office, just a little over a year ago, that unemployment rate was about 6.4%. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did it come down in record time?
Let me point out that all of this was not by accident. None of the numbers we've talked about, the fastest decline in history, the employment rate, would have been possible without this president's management of the pandemic.
That's correct. Beginning with the American Rescue Plan, which not a single one of my Republican colleagues voted for in either the House or the Senate. That was the foundation for turning the economy around. And the economic growth comparison doesn't relate to what happened when the country shut down under the previous president. Am I correct that what we've seen under the Biden administration, the Biden economy, is the fastest rate of economic growth in 40 years?
It is, absolutely, year over year.
Now, with respect to fiscal responsibility, my colleagues talk a lot about that, and they talk about socialism. You know what socialism is? That's the GOP tax scam. 83% of the benefits going to the wealthiest 1%. That is socialism for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected for no reason other than to subsidize the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. I'm proud of the economy and the budget that you have put forward, which is designed to invest in everyday Americans. In fact, wages are up right now, but we do have to continue to work to lower costs. Could you speak a little bit about that effort in the context of this budget?
Absolutely. One, I spoke about global supply chain challenges. We need to get stuff off of ships and onto shelves. And this budget provides investments in our port infrastructure. I also want to thank the Congress for the infrastructure bill. A second round of Army Corps funding was just announced that dredged important ports around the country to ensure that we can move these goods to shelves so the American people can continue to buy things. And we believe that is a key part of fighting inflation. We also believe we have to ensure that corporations, companies have competition in their system and the way we operate. So we absolutely know we have to work on this, but one thing we need to do is a balanced approach. We've seen wage growth. We need to make sure as we tackle inflation, we can keep these gains in wage growth and also economic growth. So there is a balancing act here.
And with respect to some of the revenue proposals, I think most everyday Americans would have no issue with increasing the taxes that the 25 richest billionaires in America pay, because currently they pay little to no taxes. That's less tax often than firefighters, police officers, nurses, social workers, transportation workers, healthcare aides, and our healthcare heroes who have helped us get through this pandemic. Can you talk a little bit about the resources that are being raised just in the context of what it will allow us to invest in as the Biden administration invests in everyday Americans?
So tax reform has two benefits. One, it is a fairness issue. Should the richest Americans, 700 people, pay less than half of regular folks who you represent? The other benefit of tax reform is we get to invest in the regular Americans who have price pressures that we've talked a lot about here today. Should we have legislation that reduces the cost of childcare, for example? Families shouldn't pay more than we think, shouldn't pay more than 7% of their income on childcare costs. We believe that we should have efforts to negotiate prescription drugs prices through Medicare so that families can afford life-saving treatments. So we have a difference of agreement. We all want to help these families, but we think the way to do that is through proposals that invest in the American people to help with those pocketbook issues that both sides of the aisle have brought up many times today.
Thank you very much.
Gentleman's time has expired, and now recognize the gentleman from